Hey, Kit, shall we start?
Let's go. Nice to see everybody today. Hi.
Hi.
So we were going to start with show and tell. And, actually the best show and tell really, I think, is the work that Ken did. Maybe I should go to the website and show Ken's show. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's great. Maybe Ken can talk a little bit about what he was doing and how it went.
This is the back end of the website. And let's see, I think it came up under resources. No, I guess it came up. You probably put it in the right place. Homework 6? Yes, here it goes. Ken, do you want to say anything before I play it?
There were two. Do I want to say anything?
Do you want to play both of them or just one of them?
It doesn't matter to me what.
Okay, well, why don't we do both? Which one first?
That's fine.
Married on June 3rd, 1944 in the Bronx, New York, Navy Lieutenant Claire McManus had only a short leave for her honeymoon. Gas was rationed, so the newlyweds drove to Lake Mohonk in New Paltz. The resort was opened in 1869 by Albert and Alfred Smiley. Wow. Guided by their Quaker principles, in 1895, the Smileys founded the Lake Mohonk Conference on International Arbitration, whose annual meetings led to the creation of the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague.
Wow.
Enthralled by Mohonk, Claire and Matthew returned each summer. The McManus sisters were introduced to Mohonk at a young age. Jane McManus and Ken Bernstein honeymooned at Mohonk in June 1971. And our family has hiked at Mohonk each year since.
Wow.
Our children and grandchildren share the mindful experience that is Mohonk. It is a place to renew vows and to celebrate 50 years of marriage, as well as the enduring beauty. From 1944 to 1975, and from 1957 through generations, through good and bad, and forever, Mohonk pervades our family.
Okay, let me. Fabulous.
Nice wrap up and nice,
Beautiful.
nice use of
Beautiful.
effects. Very nice, Ken.
That
That's
made
great.
me cry, Ken.
I beg your pardon?
That made me cry.
Poor Matthew, the man.
Go ahead, Ken.
I don't have a Mac laptop or an iPad, so that I had to use the phone, and it was very frustrating.
Whoa.
Because my hands are too big, and what the sound editing frustrated me, but I finally I recorded it separate while I watched the slideshow, and I would have preferred to have timed that better, but
I thought it looked just
whatever.
great. Very moving. Wonderful
Yeah, it was
story.
beautiful,
A
Ken.
legend.
Yeah, that's a big piece of work.
Noah is only rarely sitting quietly. Noah is in his blue period. Masked, waxed, but unvaxxed. Move over, Burt Reynolds. Noah refuses to be constrained by society's norms. Big sister offers solace. Noah is an affectionate brother. He is above all a clown. The smile rarely disappears. Noah loves driving the tractor, especially in Hollywood. Noah tears around on a balance bike, but always takes time to contemplate nature. Noah learned to fish this year. Dinosaurs of every species dominate his curiosity, but Hess trucks are all-time faves. Nothing beats ramming a vehicle into a flock of dinosaurs. Noah ponders the existential conflicts of the Paw Patrol. Noah's fortress of solitude. Graham is Noah's favorite substitute caregiver, even when she has trouble keeping up. The house can become suddenly sadly quiet.
Oh, fabulous.
That's
Ken,
gonna be
that's
so
very
wonderful
moving.
for him to have that.
You know, I wanted Kit, one of the things in your workshop, you discussed the stricture of having to get it into 2 minutes. And, you know, when we talk about editing, writing, we always say throw away. You have to be ready to throw away some of your best stuff to get a good essay. But I found that applied also with these media presentations. You know, I had so much, and then I couldn't get it into 2 minutes. So you have to really pare it down. And that exercise I thought was really, really beneficial.
Well, that's a very polished and successful piece of work, Ken. I think we all agree.
Thanks.
It really
Yeah.
has the flavor of a digital storytelling. It's just really good.
And
Thank you.
and two of them quite different. You know, the
Yeah.
two of them are quite different, but that profile of Noah is going to imagine what that's going to be like at his rehearsal dinner when he gets married.
Yeah, now I have to do 4 more because I have to do one for each. So.
Yeah, yeah.
Good.
So
Well, those are
Kit,
great legacies, Ken. That's beautiful work.
Thank you.
Kit, do you want to go over anything else from the show and tell? Or folks, Anita, Judy, Alexa, have you been looking at any of these things that the fave on cloud exponential growth or data visualization, or just Google it, or the slideshows, artsy portraits or oft-told tales? Any notes on any of that? Did you have any time to look at anything and have any thoughts?
I looked at it. I'm waiting until I have a little bit more time. I too have a grandson that I am dying to put that together.
Good, good. Well, all of our course material is going to stay up on the website. We're going to keep kind of fine tuning it, organizing it a little better. So, you know, people are rushed during this, and you can come back to it next month or the month after and use things, and we'll be interested in what you do. Anything else, Anita or Judy?
No, I haven't been really creative here, but I am taking it in.
Good.
Good.
Anita, any thoughts?
No, just that I have read it and I'm looking forward to trying it. Just haven't had the moment.
Great. Kit, you want to say anything else before we jump into analog to digital?
No, let's jump in. But I do want to just observe what I think we all recognize is that Deborah and I put a lot into this course. I mean, a lot of information and topics and stuff. And part of it was to see what bounced and resonated. And your continuing feedback to us is going to be really useful for us. So one of the assignments, or the only sort of, if it's an assignment at all, this week is to have you reflect a little and tell us really candidly what's worked better than other things, what's worked best, and maybe what's definitely worked least. We're not looking to beat ourselves up. we're looking to know what resonates with you, what was the most fun and the most interesting. That's going to be really helpful for us to have, and that we hope you'll cooperate in that. I'm sure you will.
So I'm going to be sending you out a survey. If you look at the day's work here, the last thing, your feedback, instead of our out of work video for you to do, it's going to be feedback and views is our fave this week. We're going to send you a little link, and it gives you a Survey Monkey way to we list every topic we've covered. And it might be kind of nice for you to just remember the topics we've covered and let us know which worked, which didn't, all that. Okay, so I'm now going to take you on a little trip that I found an app called PhotoMine, and I had a problem, and I'm going to show you. Here's the problem. That's a little bit of a problem, those pictures. Quite a lot of pictures.
Deborah's mother had the very same problem, I'd like to report.
And
some of us also have the same problem.
my mother, in her last couple years, took all the pictures she had to FedEx Kinko and copied them in black and white Xeroxes. So when she died, the four of us kids went to her house, and it was my job to go through. She'd made 20 copies of this picture, and I had to put it in stacks, and I put it in envelopes and mailed it to every child and grandchild, pieces of it. It was a mess. So I found another way. Instead of this problem of a mountain of paper and boxes where you kind of feel bad throwing it away, and this is not just pictures, but kids' artwork, report cards that have a comment you want to save, all kinds of stuff. One of the problems is you have this bulk that you can't deal with. If you put it in the basement, it gets moldy. The other thing is that if you have it, only one person can look at it. Do they come to your house and look at it in an album? I had 40 leather-bound albums full of pictures, and my kids I'm in Hawaii, they're in Brooklyn and Minnesota and Nashville and San Francisco. So I found this PhotoMine app, which I use with the phone and my Mac. You can use either or both. And it enables me to digitize multiple photos at one time.
Wow.
And edit the images, crop them, color correct them, and animate them. And you can scan the photo back. So all the information that you had on the back, you can keep with the photo. And you can make notes. You can title it and write a note. And you can do it either in writing or typing or by voice. You can say your notes about the picture and it will be saved. And then it's saved into albums, and you can sort the albums multiple ways. You can say you want to see them by what year they covered, or you can do it alphabetical. You can do all kinds of different things. And then also they have an app for sharing, and you can share any images or groups of images or albums to social media. But also when you have the back end of the website, you also are able to have a website that people can come to. Now, right here, there are, just to show you quickly, there are all these apps. PhotoMine, the main one, is the one where you upload everything. And it's the uploading that's, I feel, so magical. But you can colorize, slide scan, you can use film strips, you can use slides. All of that can be put together. You can make family trees, and it orders it with lines and shows where it is. And you can see whose faces are what percentage more like, this cousin or that cousin, etc. So those are the apps. And whoops, it just logged me out. I'm not sure why. This is the back end side of it where I'm editing it. And this is the front end side. So I can give this link to anyone in my family and they can come in and view, and you can see that mess I had. Now it is all of these 86 photos in this one photo in this, 15, 72, all of these different photo albums, which now anybody in my family can look at, and I can keep making more of them. And I'll just show you one. Let's see, what would be a good one? Well, this is Kit right here, and here I am. This is Bond family group shots. And so you just see a few different things from over the years in our family. So that's on the public side. But the back end of it, I thought, I'm going to show you guys how this actually works. So to do that, I need to stop screen sharing for a minute. And I then need to screen share from my phone. And so this is me technically trying something quite adventurous. So please don't criticize me. All right, this is photography. The upper icon for PhotoMine with the face in it, that's the one for scanning. The one down below is a sharing one. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to tell it I want to start a new album. And now I'm just holding this next to my desk. And the theme of this album is going to be hugs. That's Kit with me a bunch of years ago. Now, if any of those are ever not cropped the way you want, you just crop them again. There had crop lines there. I won't take the time to show you. So I'm just calling this hugs, I thought, for. So that's how quickly you are able to do it. Now I will stop sharing. What do you think of that app?
That is cool.
Great.
So,
That's
so
amazing.
I pulled it up on my phone on the App Store, and so it has photo scan app, film box, PhotoMine share. Are those all under PhotoMine?
Yeah. PhotoMine share. When I showed you, there were two apps in my little box, and the one on the bottom is the share one. That's really good if you want to go in and let's say you wanted to just share one album, not the whole thing. So you don't want to give people the whole mess of it. You just want to give them one album. You can just do that through the share app, and but you can go ahead and get the scanning app. You want the scanning app. The scanning app is what I think is so great. But actually, I did one other thing I should maybe show you. Let me see if I can.
Have you done it with slides? Because I see they have slide scanners.
You can do it with slides and you can do it with film strips. I have not yet. Now, yesterday, when I was looking at showing you guys this, I'm taking a little more than my time, Kit. I'm sorry, but this really tickled me. I looked at this family photo. This woman is 85 years old. A dear friend of mine was the head of sculpture at Sonoma State College. And I found out about a new thing that you can do. Now, let me see if I hope I can find it. Oh, I'm not finding the setting. Let me see if I can get it in my text message to her. It is remarkable. I took that picture and I click one setting and it animates her.
Oh my gosh.
And I texted her this picture of herself from 80 years ago. And she was overcome. She called me crying.
Yeah.
Had no idea how I'd gotten it. But, you know, it's quite amazing, this little algorithm to animate that old still picture.
I have
That's
no idea
amazing.
how you got it.
Oh my God, that's spooky.
So
That is.
Yikes.
Oh,
Wow.
that is so cool.
Yeah.
okay, I think I'm not quite in the right presentation mode, so I'm going to try to go out and go back in. It's not in present, Kit. I don't know why I keep losing present. I hope that it will not be a problem on the next thing. The next thing, Apple Photos getting organized. Now, I know that those albums you saw, I have over 100 albums in PhotoMine now, but I also have 26,000 photos in Apple Photos. And I can just take any album from Apple and put it into PhotoMine, or I can download the entire PhotoMine library onto my device or import it all into Apple Photos. So if we're going to think about using Apple Photos as the main one, because you might want to use PhotoMine just to take all the paper stuff and digitize it. But you might think, well, Apple Photos is where your kids want to share things and all that. So you can use PhotoMine to transition yourself into the digital world. So Max was going to write and deliver a little lecture on how to organize our photos, but he went and watched a bunch and he found this video, which we think is the best. So I'm going to play this for us.
If your Max photo library could use a little organized.
I'm just going to skip his little intro.
Talk America. Hey folks, and welcome to the class. You know, I have taught this class a few times over the years since I first started my YouTube channel 9 years ago. And like all teachers, I find that every time I teach it, I get a little bit better. So let me set up how this class is going to work. The first thing that I'm going to do is teach you a workflow that you can quickly reproduce at home. When you're done, you will have a folder for every year of photos here in the album section. And all of the events that took place in that year will be broken down and organized into individual albums. If this is the first time that you've watched this class, I would like to make a strong recommendation that you first start by watching the entire video all of the way through, then come back and watch it again, but then follow along on your Mac. Speaking of the Mac, while there are many things that you can do in the iOS version of Photos, there is a critical feature that we are going to utilize, which is only available on the Mac. So my recommendation is if you do have an iPhone or an iPad, you might want to consider watching this tutorial video from one of those devices. That way you can follow along from your computer.
Just wanted to say for a moment, you can do this on a PC. You all have seen how you can connect to iCloud, and through iCloud, you can use iPhotos. So both this and the deduping thing we're going to look at work on PCs as well as Mac.
Ready to begin? All right, let's start the class. I would like to take a quick moment to review the definition of an album, because after working with thousands of clients over the years, I know a lot of people find this term confusing. An album is a little bit like a playlist in iTunes, or whatever we're calling it these days. If you have a song in a library and then add it to a playlist, that does not duplicate the song. It's just a reference file. The same is true with albums. When you remove a song from a playlist, that does not remove the song from your library. The same is true with albums. And if you have a song in multiple playlists, that does not duplicate the song. It's just referenced in multiple places. So what I'm saying here is when you delete an album or albums, you are not actually deleting the photos that live inside of them. You are just deleting a method of organization. And that being said, I now want you to delete all of your photo albums. I'm sorry, what? You want me to delete all of my albums, David? Yes, self. In order to create an organized structure, it is so much easier if we start things from scratch. Trust me, I have pretty eyes. So if you're following along from home, I want you to start by clicking right here where it says My Albums. I'm now going to click on any of these albums and press Command and the letter A, which is the shortcut for Select All. Now take a deep breath, tap the delete key, and just keep telling yourself, deleting photo albums does not delete the photos inside those albums. Deleting the photo albums does not delete the photos inside of those albums. Now that we have a clean space to work in, the next step is we're going to create a new empty album. To do that, you can either click on the plus symbol, which can be a little bit hard to see, quite frankly, or the other option is you can secondary click and select Create a New Album. I'm now going to name this album Wrong Date. You'll see where this comes into play later on. Now we're going to go back into My Albums, secondary click again, and this time I'm going to create a new folder, which I'm going to name The Current Year. By the way, I have found it to be a lot easier to organize your photos when you start with the current year and then work your way backward. The next step, which I will speed up in editing, is to repeat those last two steps so that you have a folder for every year. For many people, as you go back in time, you'll probably hit periods where you have significantly fewer photos. So at a certain point, you might want to consider changing it so that your folder contains a decade of photos or something like that. I'm recording this video in March of 2021, so because we're not that far into the year for this demonstration, I'm actually going to be using the year 2020. So at this point, you want to secondary click, also known as right click, on the folder for the year, and we're going to create a new Smart Album. If you're not familiar with the term Smart Album, let me take a quick moment to explain how they work. A Smart Album is basically a customized search. We're going to create some terms and conditions, and if a photo matches those terms, it's going to appear in this album. One of the weird things about Smart Albums is that you can only access them on the Mac. So what we're going to do is we are going to use the Smart Album to isolate groups of photos and then turn them into albums. When we're done, all of this structure will synchronize across all of your other iOS devices. One of the important differences that you absolutely must remember about Smart Albums is that unlike a normal album, if you delete a photo from a Smart Album, it does delete them from the library. That feature, by the way, is really going to come in handy when it comes time to clean house, but we'll save that for later. This next part may be a little bit confusing, but the good news is we only need to set this up once, and then we're going to be able to duplicate this Smart Album and just simply change the year. So let's continue. I'm going to name my Smart Album the year that we're working in. So right now, I'm going to call this 2020. Now we're going to click into this first field where it currently says photo, and I'm going to change this to date captured. In this next field, we're going to change it from is to is in the range of. And now we can manually change the date so that it goes from January 1st to December 31st. In addition to knowing when a photo was captured, the other critical piece of information that we need to know is whether or not that photo has already been organized into an album. So we're now going to add a second rule that will automatically remove that photo from the Smart Album once it has been turned into a traditional album. When I click the plus symbol to add a second rule, you'll see this option appear here at the top. Just make sure it says match all of the following rules. For the second rule, we are going to set this first field to album. Then in this next field, we are going to change it to is not. And then we're going to leave this last option as any. And now click OK. So now here are all of my photos that were taken in 2020. Please take a quick moment to look at this number here at the top left where it shows how many photos and videos are in this Smart Album. That number is essentially a countdown. You don't necessarily need to get it to 0, but the idea is that if you did get it to 0, that would indicate that all of your photos have been organized into albums. Starting to see how this works? Oh yeah. So now that you can see all of the photos for the year that you're working in, the first thing I recommend you do is go through this list and find your absolute favorite photos and mark them as favorites. The easiest way to do this is to use the period key on your keyboard. So let's quickly scan through my photos from 2020, and I'm going to hold down the command key on my keyboard and just select my favorite photos individually. I'll now press the period key to mark them as a favorite. You can tell that it's marked as a favorite because of this little heart icon down at the bottom right corner of those photos. I'm going to now click outside of this group so that it clears my selection. As many of you may know, I moved across the country at the end of last year. So for this example, I'm going to use this group of photos that I took while visiting the Grand Canyon. The next step is to turn these photos into an album. And the easiest way to do that is to press the command key and the letter N on your keyboard. The next step is to rename this album. As you can see here, it has taken on the name of my Smart Album. So since the text is already highlighted, I can just simply type over it and I'll rename it Grand Canyon. Now I'll press the return key to lock it in. If we now go back to the Smart Album and look at the number at the very top, you'll see that it has now gone down by the number of photos we just organized into that last album. Like I said, that number is basically a countdown. When you're done going through this process, the final remaining photos will most likely contain a lot of photos that you maybe don't care so much about. So at this point, I'd like to remind you that if you delete photos from a Smart Album, that does delete them from the library. So now I can select all of those photos that I don't care about and then press Command Delete to send them to the trash. And rather than having to recreate this Smart Album for every single year, You can save a ton of time with this next trick. All we need to do is secondary click on that smart album for 2020 and select duplicate. I'm now going to move the extra smart album into the folder for 2019. Now we do need to adjust the date, so let's now secondary click again, but this time we're going to select edit smart album. I'll now change the name up top. Then I'll click into the year for each of these fields, and I'm going to click on the down arrow to the side. Now press OK, and you're good to go. Now, as you go through your photos, at some point, you are probably going to encounter photos that were either scanned or have broken metadata, and thus will not have the correct date. And that is the reason why we created that first album at the very beginning of the class, appropriately named Wrong Date. For example, here's a bunch of adorable and occasionally awkward photos from my youth. I only scanned these last year, so instead of creating an album that's going to live inside of the 2020 folder, instead we're going to drag and drop these into the Wrong Date album. Let's now go into that album, and I'll select this first group of photos. Now I'll go here into the image menu at the very top and select Adjust Date and Time. My recommendation for this part is to focus on the year. Things don't really need to be exact. The point is to make it so that they're all grouped relatively close together. So for now, I'm just going to say these were all taken in 1989. So at this point, you can turn these photos into individual albums, once again, by pressing Command N, and then you can manually drag and drop those albums into their respective folders. The next thing that we're going to organize are your videos. And all we need to do is make one minor change to the smart album we already created. So let's go back into that 2020 smart album, secondary click, and I'm going to select duplicate. Now I'm going to secondary click on it again and select edit smart album. I'm going to start by renaming this smart album 2020 Home Movies. And now I'll change the second rule to say photo is video, and then click OK. So now you can see we have every single video that I shot on my iPhone from 2020. Let's now talk about duplicate photos. Duplicate photos is something that a lot of people encounter. There's a lot of different apps out there that claim to remove duplicates, but for me, there's an obvious winner. There's an app called Power Photos that works amazingly well. And if you use promo code TechTalk10, all one word, you can save 10% and also help support my YouTube channel in the process.
So I think I will get out of that now, but I did buy the duplicate photos that he recommended because I've previously bought 2 other photo dedupers and they didn't work. So I'm now about to start that right here. And when you get a copy of the slides for today, you can click on that if you want and watch. This is his video about how to use that particular deduper app. So can you guys nod or something? Did this make any sense to you? Do you feel like this is a problem you have, that your pictures are not in order and you need a way to do it that's more? So it sounds a little complicated, but this beginning instruction that says, watch the whole video, then go back and watch the whole video again. But the second time you watch it on your iPhone or your iPad, and have the app up on your, have the photo app up on your computer. And so by having the 2 at once, you'll be able to go through and follow the directions in the video as he walks you through it. Just start and stop, and you can go through it and get used to it. To me, you know, I know it may seem like this is not creative to go through these little steps, but this is part of what I'm talking about when I talk about the fact that we are now a part of artificial intelligence. When we get this into our mind and we take these steps, we're using artificial intelligence to manage this incredible volume of media and stuff we have in the world, so that we can be on top of it and have it the way we want. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So I'm not going to show the last to this film or this, but you can get to them later. And now we are over to Mr. Kit on digital drawing.
Hey, Deb, can I just ask something? When I go onto my photos in iOS, I can hit years and it automatically sorts it into years. So, I mean, Do we really need the app if, I mean, what, I'm confused on what it does differently. I have a nice little screenshot that shows 2013, 2014, and I'm not sure what the difference is.
Well, we're talking about using Apple Photos is the app we're talking about. And when you look at Apple Photos, you're able to currently look at it in years.
Right, right.
But his directions enable you to go in to create albums that make sense, not just in the year. You can put the albums under the year, but you're going to have an album for Mardi Gras. You're going to have an album for pets at the park, whatever it is. So this is a way to get it organized. I don't know if you're like me, but in my, I have a lot of scanned pictures, so they don't have that correct original date when they were taken.
Okay, so it goes.
Also, you have all these generated albums that don't mean anything to me. There are thousands of albums that have no meaning. And so that's why he has you, because the app generates the albums on its own. And the year is very useful, but he's going to use the year in the process he's giving. He's just giving you a way to get rid of all the albums you have so that now you organize it by year. And then from year, you're able to put them into actual albums that relate to what the content is.
Okay, got it.
Well, and just as an add-on for me, what came across loud and clear is that rather than creating and naming it a new album and then doing the drop and drag thing, this just organizes them so much. It's so much quicker.
Yeah.
And then that was like, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah. So I this is the second time I've watched it, and I think I'll watch it a third time and try to do some. But I'm deciding, do I want to keep PhotoMine going and Apple Photos, both of them? I'm not sure. So I wanted to present both to you today. I really see PhotoMine as mostly the way to suck the paper things in.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I like about it that I don't have in iPhoto is I like it that I can describe a picture verbally and have the voice thing. And I like that I can put names in it and that it can search for, it can organize things by the notes that I write. So there are some functions in PhotoMine that I like that are not there in Apple Photos, but Apple Photos, because it's integrated with our device, is tremendously powerful. So you may want to use both. I think I'll probably continue using both. Over to you, Kit.
Okay. In the next few minutes, I'd like to take you deeper into drawing because there's more to drawing than the incredible work you did in the very first class when you did an abstract painting.
Thank heavens.
Thank heavens. There's a little bit more. And I want to, it's actually, I feel like I can give you a really good line on what to do and where to go. But I want to begin with some just review of how many apps there are to do this. So free drawing apps for iPhone. Well, I started actually about iPhone drawing apps, right? 31 million, almost 32.
Wow.
But it just got down to 25 million. That was so good that I put the free on it. I'm just kidding. There's tremendous, you can go and have a lot of fun looking around, and I'm sure that I have not seen enough to really be as definitive as I'm going to be. But before that, I listed 4 here that are really well known and recommended widely. And each one of them has a different thing. And I think you should check them. One thing it's really important to know about, and I didn't cover it here, although I cover it pretty well in Mediapedia, which I hope you're reading a little bit of. Yeah. And that is there's a difference between vector and bitmap photographs and drawings. Vectors are formulas. So if you're drawing a circle, it'll give, actually what it does is it says, here's the middle of the circle, and then it has a mathematical formula. And letter forms have formulas, and lots of things do. All the technical drawings that you see are done that way. And they're terrific because you can blow them up and without any loss of resolution. Bitmaps is pixels. Bitmaps is what our iPhone takes pictures with. All these and all the resolution talk and all that. It's all about the pixels. And these two can meet, but they are different. And it's good to study a little bit on that difference if you're into drawing, because there are times when you want to mix them. And many of the best apps will let you mix them. So you're doing a very abstract portrait of your sister, and but you want to add some really strong forms that are complicated and you want to duplicate them. You can actually mix them today in what's available. So I'm not going to read the names of these or take you into them any more than this introduction, but here's a good information. You can come back and check these out. I recommend it. Deborah, next, please. I want to now talk about Procreate, which is a pretty new app, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And the important thing to say is that last year, Procreate for the iPhone was the choice of Apple as the app of the year. And you know what? It is an amazing app, you guys. I had never used it because I started with my iPad drawing on a big surface, and with my phone, Apple drawing thing. And I'll end up showing you just a little bit of what I've been doing in that, just so you can see the range of stuff. And I'm still at a very beginning stage on that. But I picked up this thing, I downloaded it onto my phone. It cost $5, but I said, I'm going for it. It is so much fun. It is so intuitive. You can make such great things. I'm going to try to give you a flavor of that. So next one, please. Procreate Pocket, it's called. So when you go to the site, the main site, in the lower left there, if you touch that, when you get a hard copy of this, a PDF where Deborah is, it should take you there, and you'll basically see the picture above, which is, getting into it. The picture above is a nice thing. You can see a selection on the left of pencil brushes, different ways you can draw. This is revolutionary. This isn't just like a little addition to the world of art. Like, this is a big new tool, guys. I don't know why the world isn't crazier about it. The second picture in there is just an example of a drawing. The third one shows the color wheel that we've seen before. They have many color wheels in here. And the last one, I don't know what it shows, except it's kind of cool. But I'm going to take you a little bit into this. The editor's choice is the benediction I talked to you about. And Procreate is really, I just want to say how much fun this is and how you can really play around with this thing a lot. And so let's go to the next one and I'll show you a little bit. There are many brushes. The first and the third slide show brushes. Altogether, there must be 100 brushes. The one there on the left is artsy brushes, painting brushes, and it's amazing how different they are. The brushes are just little dedications of what carries something or not, and its density. And they're really effective. But when you get to the third one in there, you can see newsprint, little teeny dots like you get on newspaper when you get halftone prints, or painting with the disco bubbles is fun. Now here, or the bolts. Here again, it's just fun to mess around and decorate and do fun things. But when you're working as an artist, you need to find a motivation. And I just want to say that in Ken's slideshow, one of the things that slideshows do is they have all these transitions, and you can go nuts with them. They're fun. I love them. They can flip and flop and morph and do all kinds of things. But it really works. If there's not a reason for it, it can be really distracting and kind of cheap tricks. And it's the same with these brushes. You have to try to figure out why you want to use it and how it works. And that's a wonderful creative problem, and it's fun to play around with. I told you about the colors. There's 5 kinds of color choices in this app. They all have their reason. I'm not going to go into that, but I want to just take a look at the moment on the right on layers. The secret with digital drawing is that you can create lots and lots of layers. Now, layers are tricky, and a lot of people have trouble with them. a lot of people have deep trouble with them. It's hard to figure them out. It was helpful for me a little bit because in my background in animation, I'm used to these cameras. Animation cameras look down, and what's on the bottom layer, you'll see that unless on other layers they're on cells, so it's clear. So you're seeing, a layer covers the layer below it, and you can mix them around. So you over here, oh, you're not seeing this, but anyway, the little boxes with checks, you can turn those on and off, so you can see just one layer. In the little test I'm going to do, what I did is I took a photograph of me. I played around with it a touch, and then I began to draw on different layers. And I did that because I thought it would be a way that you could really enjoy with selfies of yourself or pictures you take of people. And it also shows you how useful layers is. There are many controls that you can get into with this. Each layer has multiple layers of control. You can go nuts. I could drive you crazy. But I just want to give you the overview. Next one, please. So I started, when I opened it up, number one on the left to right, that's what it looked like, Procreate Pocket. And on the right-hand side, up near the top, there's a very faint cross, the plus sign. And you touch that and it sets up a new canvas. And you have different kinds of canvases to set up. That means different ratios, screen ratios. I decided to do with the screen size because I wanted to work in the long format that's native to the iPhone because I wanted to do that, but you can work in square or any other one. Then the next thing I wanted to do was to take my photograph. So I went to a thing called Actions, and Actions it's going to be hard to see on here. And but if you look at the fourth picture in, you see the little white wrench.
Mm-hmm.
Deborah, can you point at the wrench up high and the next picture over?
Oh,
To the right, yeah, down, left, nope.
oh, here it is.
More. Ha! That's a little wrench. It's in the other one, but it's blue. And that one gives you these things called actions. There's a whole vocabulary that's special. I don't think it's very self-evident. Is that a question? No, that's the postman. So I said, take a photograph. You can import photographs, you can do other things there, but I just said, I'm going to do that. So the middle slide is the selfie I took. And then I began to play around with some of the other controls, and this was fun, and this was not an Apple. Down at the bottom, there's some frames that show down at the bottom in a white band, right where Deborah's pointing. Good for you. The one I chose is the one in the middle, which is called Distort. And it lets you, twist your photograph. And you can have a lot of fun with that. You've probably played around with that in FaceTime or in a lot of apps that have these silly things you can do to twist what's called the rasher. That is the set of pixels. And you can kind of bend them and pull them and multiply some and condense them. It's really what digital stuff is all about. So what I did is I stretched my face long. I wanted to do a Modigliani about me. I think my face is a little square and maybe a little jowly. I don't know, some people say. I like a dewlap. I think a dewlap is a fine thing. A waddle is nothing to be ashamed of, but sometimes I wonder. Anyway, my waddle and everything's intact, and I made my face long. And then I pinched in. Working close in is very important when you're drawing with your finger. So you can pinch in and draw the tip of your nose and paint it, and then pull back and do the part next to your nose. And that's very important in this kind of stuff. Next one, Deborah. This is just a little more about the layers. I want to repeat. Here you can get a better sense that on each layer, I'm coloring over my face. This is just a paint over. And I'm doing it with different colors. I sort of start with darker, the way an oil painter will start with the dark shapes and leave the highlights till the end. But, you know, I learned from watercolor that there's, you know, that there's other ways to do it as well. Anyway, one color for one thing. I can go back, I can turn them all on or off. Basically, the new color, like layer 6, is on top of 5. And the layer 1, which is my source image, the one I just took about, below that is a background color. So I can set a background for the whole thing. And then anything that's, but of course I have to erase to see through to the background. So let's see, I think that's good. So I chose a brush and I'm going to show you what I was doing. This is really fun. Go ahead, Deb, please. So I took this close up of my eye and I'm just with my finger, I'm doing this really fast, guys. I'm just booming along. I start with colors. The first color I started with was kind of a nice dark fleshy tone, and it matched up well with with actually the tone that was on my nose and the one that was created by my glasses. I was not trying to be representational here too much. I wanted to work in earth tones pretty much and skin tones sort of, but I wasn't interested. I could have been doing this in blues and done me in blue, and maybe, but I didn't want to confuse you with Blue Boy, like Gainsborough and my Italian guys, and you know, and then there's all these other guys. That's going to drive you nuts. I don't want to do that. So you can just see here how I'm building up and putting layers on top of layers. At many times you can like turn on a layer, turn off a layer, take out your source picture behind. It's right there to pull it back and sort of see how it's going. But you can also work pretty fast and you can change brushes. In this case, I just used the same brush to do it. Next one, please, Deborah. I'm cutting back now to the final project. I did 2 versions of this. It was so much fun from the same photograph. And the picture I liked the best actually was a kind of a composite where I took, it's a composite of the one with the yellow background, where I got into that central part of my face. And I think there's a likeness there that I sort of like. I like both of these a little bit. And I like the one on the right, which was really loose and weird. But there's 2, 3 really important things to say here that if you don't hear me and you try this out, you're going to hate me. The first, see this little notch? The first notch over in your number 10? That's a notch that controls the size of your brush. And when you put your finger on it, it's sort of an interface slides out. And if you move your finger up and down just a little bit, it'll make a little icon of the brush. There's a little mark that represents the brush, and it's different for each brushes. You can make that bigger and smaller. That is very helpful. Okay. The next thing below it is a one that I couldn't find any value for. It was about the pressure you're pushing on. Oh. I didn't know how to work that, but I'm sure it's just, I've never done that. I didn't really use that very much. And then remember this, 2-finger touch, that's undo. They didn't say that anywhere fast enough for me. 2 taps will undo the last thing. And you're often making a mark and saying, I hate it, take it away. And you go back, boom, 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 back. I bet 3 fingers is a redo, but I didn't experiment with that. But between tapping and going fast, it's very, very intuitive. It's very intuitive.
Kid, I'm sorry, does that mean you tap it twice or you just put 2 fingers on the screen?
It reads
2 fingers, okay.
Yeah, good question, Pat. Very good question.
Okay.
So I kind of like these. Let's go on to the next one, please. I wanted to show you a little bit of a little more serious work. So this stuff I did, I don't know if it's serious enough. I did it on an iPad, and these were the last things I was working on before I stopped to start working on a curriculum for iFogie. So these are actually my most recent ones. This is my granddaughter, and I'll show you a couple of my grandson. And what I'm doing here is I'm kind of systematic in the way I explore things. And here I'm exploring these pictures of Lulu, my granddaughter, trying different techniques. So the one on the left is very hard edged. You can sometimes get photo filters that will do that. But in the background, I'm trying to use some of these textures. The one in the middle, I tried to make it look really, I found a background paper that's called, art paper, watercolor paper. So I'm really trying to get a look that's like a watercolor. I'm using watercolor type brushes and I'm playing around with that. And then on the right, there's that's more of a kind of a traditional acrylic or oil painting approach. And I thought all of those were kind of interesting. I didn't fall in love with any more than any other. But in this case, I kept a little, when you're working, you can put up the picture that you're working from, you can put that in as a reference. You can also have it under the drawing if you want and cover it over. I find I get nervous when I begin to spend too much time on top of a real image. I find it locks me down and I kind of get, it's better to sort of, to get a likeness, which I really think to me is important. It should look, if I'm doing Kathy Bear, it should look like Kathy Bear. So that's why I like doing this or working in a grid system. In the Renaissance, they invented this wonderful grid system. There's some notes in class 1. There's a thing about drawing, and if you're interested in that, it goes into that and shows a little more about it. But if you take a grid, you take a photograph and you make squares on it. Doesn't matter what size they are. Then you take your drawing paper, doesn't matter what size it is, and make squares again. And you can line up which square is which. So for instance, you can decide where the right eyeball is and where it's falling in there. The tighter the squares, the more accurate you can be. But very quickly, you can get a terrific outline, contour lines that has the character of the person you want. And that's all I really want. I don't want to, follow down into too much detail. I just don't enjoy it that much. But you can get very detailed, but that's the way to do portraits that actually start looking like the person. And that's nice if you want to give it to them.
So Kit, this is all done with your finger. So your finger is the brush. I mean, you can control what the brush is like. Wow.
Yes, Kathy, but when I'm doing these here, I was working with an Apple pencil.
A pencil, okay.
That's $100, and I was working on my iPhone. You can get these little, also in the first class, I think I showed a picture of a $7 stylus that you can get in, and that would help on your iPhone a lot if you wanted to work that way. I think I got one of those, and I think if I did all the stuff you saw above with my finger, but I like to have a certain amount of precision. The other thing is just keep erasing it when you don't like it, dip it out.
Lots of 2 fingers.
Lots of 2 fingers, lots of 2 fingers. And next one, please. Here's my grandson, Skender. He's now in 6th grade, and he's a quarterback in tag football, and he's having a semi-championship game today. You can be sure I am there for Skender. He's a wonderful kid. I like these explorations. I like them all. And they're getting more moody. The one on the left is extremely simple, right? I treated his shirt and stuff in just 2 colors. Well, 3 colors: gray, black, and the white of his sweatshirt. And I found a brush that was really good for his hair, but I left the background totally white, and there's not much contrast in his skin colors. The next one in the middle, I started with the background, and I made this kind of gorgeous, weird background. And then I let him sort of poke out through it. And then on the right, which I think I like the best, is just I don't know how to say it. It's kind of a quick sketch of Skender and a nice moment for him. I recommend this stuff. If you like to draw, and if you're drawn to portraits or landscapes or still lifes, Procreate is an amazing tool. And I think the iPhone is really good. I don't think you need to go to the other one. And you could, of course, send them out and blow them up and take them all over the place. They go everywhere. In this thing at the left, under the words toolset basics, are a list of just some of the creative elements that are possible when you're working digitally. And I'm showing this to you because I've been at lectures, even quite recently, at very fancy places like the Museum of Modern Art. where they're talking about photography and the art, and they're treating digital art and these digital tools like Photoshop as, just dark rooms. And that is so stupid. They are so missing the point. There are new tools, new creative things you can work with that nobody ever worked with before, that your parents and your children probably never even had a chance to. And you can play with these. And I think what I just showed you is a nice example of a whole new vocabulary. But filling and drawing, of course, you can erase. There's an eraser in with your paintbrushes, duplicating things that you like and replacing them, smudging with your finger, exporting them and then re-importing them somewhere else. Amazing choices of color. In fact, perfect color. I'm looking at Ken now. I could take my brush, I could take my, in this thing, I could tap with my ink thing right on his forehead and get his perfect pink and put that right in. And Kathy Bear's got a real nice, her cheekbones, don't they look nice with this beautiful warm color? I can pluck that out and use it. Or Molly's purple, dark purple. I could just snag that exactly. That's fun too. It's not repetitive. So these are, okay, and next one. How am I doing? Am I going too far? I'm almost done. I just put in a little selection of paintings I had done in digital. And just to show you the range I'm doing. The one on the upper left has my sister Cindy from an archival photograph. Cindy's older than me. And I did that really quickly. And I somehow it's charming to me. My son's mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, I guess, is in that picture next to it. A friend of mine in this kind of weird flying hair. I found an old photograph of my grandparents. And it was my grandparents in a wide shot in black and white from a in a photo album. And I took a quick, crappy picture of it and I blew it up, but there was enough to see. And I created this drawing of my grandmother. And I love it. It's what I have as my screensaver.
That's
I
nice.
didn't know her too well, but between her emotional impact on me and these eyes and this style, it just kills me. Hey, there's two abstract ones here. Knowing that I really don't have a favorite feeling for abstract, but I wanted to push myself, and I took a class online in Woodstock, New York. And the woman gave us little problems to work on. These were two of them, but I found it fascinating. And I love the exploration. I'm going to do more. On the left, you can see me playing with some of these brush forms. And then on the right, she said, take half the thing and make organic forms of some kind, and the other half do different forms. And I use this as a way to just check out all the marks I could make, or at least some of the marks I could make in different color palettes. Next one, Deborah, please. I was going to do more on this, but I ended up wanting to tell you about a program I have called Miro. Deborah and I worked in it. This is a picture of a gallery I did about a year ago, right now. And I wanted to stand back and take a look at, I've been painting for about 5 years, and I found this program that it does whiteboards and mind mapping. And you can I took the pictures and I just imported them into this one big whiteboard. You can't imagine how big it is. This is just not even beginning to fill the whiteboard. And I put the pictures in and I thought about them, and I did just the ones I wanted, and I wrote little captions about them. This is really just for me, to sort of see what I'm doing and see, and it was fun. What I want you to see is how, two things. First of all, check the resolution. The PDF logo that's in there. Deborah, can you circle that?
Yeah.
There she is. Look at her. She's so attentive. That's just a PDF file, right? Okay, open the file and you get actually 4 pieces. Each one of these has incredible resolution. And I sampled that in the Kiss one. That Kiss one is a watercolor taken from our wedding of me and my wife having a kiss. right at the moment where it's like a first kiss picture. You can see how little it is and then how big it is. And I could blow that up all the way. I don't know if you can see it well, but it has all the detail of a watercolor. And I love the looseness of watercolors and the way they roll around and that part of it all. So this is an amazing way to save your both photographs and artwork that you have. But it's also an advanced learning system, and it's changing all the time. But what I'm using it for here is really just the simplest use. It is look at all these things in the list there. For meetings and workshops, brainstorming ideation by large groups of people. Agile work. Agile is a technique that computer people use. It works with that. Research and design, strategy and planning. Its mapping is just incredibly good. I'll show you an example in a second. Concept mapping, which I'll show you in a second. Sticky notes, all this kind of stuff. It's great. Please move to the next slide. I'm going to show you what iFogey looked like about last June, maybe, around then, sometime. Deborah and I were collaborating along 601, June 1st. I think that's what that means. It was the working curriculum for iFogey, and you can actually see there's eight chunks there with different colors, and then a lot of other notes. This is where we began to figure out what would go where and how it would work. You can zoom in so that any one of these little Post-it shapes fills the screen in perfect resolution. You can add notes, you can make arrows. At the bottom right-hand side, you see this thing with the blue image with the, that is actually the whole mind map, and you're seeing there the part that's in color, and there's lots beyond it. And I think that I'm covering maybe half of the space, so you could go much deeper than that and much more information. I like mind maps because I'm extremely visual, and I like the proximity of images, and that turns me on. That feeds me for some reason. I like that, but at some point it breaks down. You can't keep. I think you can't do it, and it's hard to do it collaboratively. Although this thing works collaboratively. Up here in the corner is the. If you go to the Miro, if you click on this, or you just look that up and put it in your computer, or just type Miro as in the artist, you will find this app, a very, very cool app that I love dearly.
How many people could work? How many people could work on this? If did you and Deborah go back and forth? It's unlimited.
Yeah,
we haven't so much, but you can. And you can have, I think you can have a big team. They of course want to sell to corporations. So I think if you have a design team of 40 or 50 people, they can all work on it. And the notes, whoever posts gets seen. It's certainly built for that. It'd be great for collaboration. It would be pretty good in classrooms, I think. And we thought of doing more of it with this, but we, for many good reasons, we decided to stick with Apple Tech.
So the whole idea of Miro, Miro was probably doing whiteboards a little bit more than some other groups, but a lot of schools started doing whiteboards back in like 1990. And they started doing them electronically as well as the whiteboard in the class. And so now a big, Google has a thing called Jamboard, which is a whiteboard. And it's like a much more simple Miro, but it's free and many people use it. Jamboard, and there's also a whiteboard in Zoom, and we may put it on during our last class next week to have people able to do a little collaborating. So the whole idea of whiteboard that is accessible to multiple people is happening from many companies, many apps in different ways, but Miro is probably kind of the deepest, most powerful one that lets you have, higher resolution, like Kit mentioned, more people, et cetera. But many schools in the country are now using Jamboard in their classes.
So now, did you use Miro on your iPad as opposed to on your phone?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't. Yes, I did.
Okay.
Deborah, let's go to the next slide. We're about out of this. We are. back to you, Deborah, and phone
Are we?
trips. Unless
Okay.
we-
All right. Now we are actually 1 minute past closing time.
Oh, no, I've done
So
it again.
that's okay. We knew when Kit and I designed this lesson, I said, I'll put this stuff at the end. And if people don't get to do it, I'll send it out as a fave for next week. But I made these IQs to show you tricks you can do on your iPhone. And this very last slide is a video that Max made that tells you how to make your iPhone a Wi-Fi network. And by that, he means if you're traveling and you don't want to pay the $25 at the hotel for their internet, you just use your personal hotspot. So this little video shows you how to do that. How many of you already use a personal hotspot on your phone? Okay.
I've done it a bit. Yeah.
I've done it.
A couple of you do it. So if you want to
Yeah, I do it.
watch it, you can watch his video on it. And I'll send these things out before the next lesson because we're at our end point. And I think that is the end. Yep. But some of these, I went and researched this a little bit, and there's some things I've started using that are helping me, because when I'm emailing people and I need to, go to numbers from letters, or I need to change the font or something, it's remarkable how much you can do that I didn't know.
Oh, good.
So you can, I'll be posting these on the website as individual PDFs, so you can download them and print them out if you want, or look at them on screen.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Okay, we are done.
Thank you.